Alrighty, so we're going to talk about bioenergetics. And bioenergetics is it's kind of a form of homeopathy, but it's customized just for your dog. Okay, and so it's an energy-based modality, and so in homeopathy, there are one of the principles is that energy deficits start before physical problems, okay? And so every physical problem at its earliest level is actually an energy problem first, okay? And then most of the time, the immune system will just take care of that. In homeopathy, we refer to it as the vital force. That's your body's inner ability to fix itself, okay? From a Western medicine perspective, we just call it the immune system. But most of the time, the immune system will just fix these problems at this energetic level before it ever becomes a physical problem. But sometimes, if the immune system is weak or something else overwhelms it, it can break through and become a physical problem, okay? It's not exactly the same, but the way I think of it is, if you were to walk into a room with someone that has a cold, you don't automatically get a cold, even though you're exposed to it, but your immune system hopefully took care of it at that energetic level, okay? Sometimes you're just going to get the cold though, okay? So we are exposed to all sorts of energy problems all the time. Even like these LED lights create an energy on our body which is not healthy for us. Most of the time, again, the immune system just manages it, okay? So it can be physical things, emotional things, diseases, nutritional deficits, all sorts of things. Toxins can cause energy problems that can create a physical issue, okay? And so based on quantum medicine, which I'll explain a little bit of here in a minute, we can test your dog and look for these energy deficits, okay? Which is what we did, and this is based on some experiments on quantum medicine that were done back in the 1970s. When I was young, I learned that an atom, you could pretend this is an atom that has a bunch of electrons spinning around it, okay? I learned that, kind of like our solar system, that the gravity of the nucleus holds these little electrons in, but they want to spin off into space, and centrifugal force, so that keeps them in orbit around the nucleus, kind of like our solar system. We know that that's total bullpucky. It doesn't happen that way. What we don't know is how it actually works, though, okay? So there were some physicists working on quantum physics back in the 1970s that took two subatomic particles, two photons. When I was in school, we didn't know there was subatomic particles. That was somewhere along the time they invented paper. But they took two subatomic particles from the same atom, and what they did with those is they would manipulate one, and whatever they did to one, let's say they spin this guy to the right, the other one would automatically do the same thing. Okay, so they knew these were communicating somehow, but they were trying to figure out how all this is held together and how these subatomic particles could communicate. So what they did is that they started spreading those further and further apart. I have no idea how you do that. I'm not a physicist, but they did. And they did this experiment in Geneva, and they were trying to figure out what this communication was. So the further they got it apart, they figured that there would be a delay there because it would take longer for that energy to get there, and they would figure out how they're communicating. In the original experiment, and you can look this up, it's called the twin photon experiment. They ended up getting these photons 7 miles apart in 2 different labs at other opposite sides of Geneva, and still whatever they would do to one photon, the other one would respond in the same way instantly. And since then it's been repeated many times, even continents apart, and as long as it came from the same life force, same body, these subatomic particles still communicated instantaneously, which is weird. Okay. As a matter of fact, if you start checking out YouTubes on quantum physics and quantum entanglement and quantum medicine, most of the physicists describe it as being weird. We don't understand it. We know it's real. We know it's there. We just don't know how it works yet. Okay. We'll eventually figure that out, just like we figured out what chi energy really is. So this is how we can test your dog by testing their fur and testing the energy level. Another concept to understand with homeopathy and quantum, where homeopathy and quantum physics combine, is that all of the body systems communicate with each other. All the cell types in the body communicate with each other. Okay, so at any given point, your liver knows what your spleen is doing, and your big toe, your big toenail knows what, bad example, but knows what your gallbladder is doing. Okay, every part of your body knows what's happening in the rest of the body, so that it can do its part to keep the whole healthy. Okay, and so we can take some of her cells. Okay, in our case, we just use fur. If I'm testing humans, I have you hold on to some electrodes. Okay, it's hard to get dogs to do that, so we can use this concept to test fur, because they came from your dog's body. They're the same cells. Okay, and they know what's going on. And so what we do with that is we give your dog known energy frequencies, okay, through our sensor, and we know what the normal resonance of that is, or resistance. And this is based on work that was started in the 1940s by a guy by the name of Reinhard Bohl, who was a German physician and acupuncturist. And he was trying to map out all these points on people. And what he found over time, and he was just using electrodes and an ohm meter like an electrician would use to check resistance. But what he found out over time was that he found out the points and meridians are exactly where we thought they were. No surprise there, really. But also he found out that people that were sick had alterations in the resistance. In other words, how easily the energy would flow between or flow through the meridians. So also he discovered over time that people that had the same illnesses had the same patterns in those abnormal resistances. So for example, someone with diabetes would have a similar pattern between all the different points, would have a similar pattern to somebody else with diabetes. And at the time, it would take a long time to sort out this information by hand and by testing by hand. That was way before quantum entanglement became a thing. And it would take days to really figure out or map out a whole person. But he just started cataloging that information. And then it started building, and other people researched and added to that. At this point, we have about 45,000 people in the system and animals that we can test for normals and abnormals in their energy patterns. And that's really what we're doing. We're testing energy patterns to look for commonalities and in what we know are abnormal patterns. So the way we do that is we take a frequency, known frequency, and then we put it on a scale. We scale it from 0 to 100, with 50 being in the middle, and 50 is the normal range. So if you're somewhere around that, it'll be considered normal. We put everything on the same scale to make it easy to understand. And then we give your pet a known frequency through the fur, and assess how resistant it is, okay? If it falls within that normal range of resistance, then everything is good, and it gives it a color green, because we're going to do a lot of frequencies, and it color coding makes it a little bit easier just to scan through quickly. So if it's in the normal range, great, that means that's in balance, nothing to worry about. If we test and there's more resistance than we would expect, then it's going to fall on the lower end here, give it a color yellow. And this means that that particular frequency is blocked or weak. Okay? And then something cool happens. The system looks for a frequency to match it and balance it to make it go up into the normal range. Okay? And if we can get it to balance, great. Now it's balanced, we move on to the next one. On the opposite end of the scale, if we test and it is the energy is flowing too quickly, so little resistance, then we get a color code of red. And that indicates that that area or that frequency is stressed or irritated. Same thing happens though, then it looks for, out of this big huge database that we have, looks for an energy that will correct it and get that to go back in the normal range, okay? So what we end up with at the end of the test is a whole list of all of the things that the immune system or vital force is working on at the moment, okay? So it's sort of a snapshot picture. So we get this list of all of these things. What we can't tell with this testing is anything to do with physical, okay? We're just looking for energy patterns. And then we can take these balancing items, again, it's still frequencies, that lined up with these, and we'll correct these energy disturbances, or at least help the immune system. And if we do that, then we're taking pressure off the immune system so it can devote more resources to her physical problems. So that's the concept. So at the end, we end up with a list of all the energy disturbances, the frequencies that'll help balance her out, and then how intense those are, whether they're weakened or stressed or whatever. But we can't, like I said, tell anything about the physical. So as you're looking at your reports, remember that. And that's a hard thing for us Western medicine people to think about. Also, if it pops up, let's say it pops up Lyme disease shows up a lot. We're not saying that she has Lyme disease. What we're saying is that she's got a pattern similar to other dogs that have Lyme disease, okay? Can't really tell you anything about the physical, but energetically, she has a similar pattern. And then we can treat that. So when I analyze these, I'm looking at all these things to see if there's any repetition. Let's say there's 10 things on the pattern, or 10 things on the report, and 5 of them are pointing to joint problems, then I'm going to say, well, we should probably really focus on joint issues. But if it's a little bit of everything, some joints, some heart, some anxiety, whatever, if it's a little bit of everything, then that's okay, because we're taking care of every single one of these, okay? Now, how do we do that? Well, partially the treatment or the test itself treats her, because we tested, then found the balancing item and gave it to her to see if it balanced it. So that treatment itself is great, but it's not going to last very long. We want to repeat that. We want to do it a couple times a day, usually for 4 to 6 weeks. Not really practical for you to bring your dog back twice a day for the next 6 weeks, because I'm not even going to be here that often. But what we can do is we can take these frequencies and imprint them into something that you can give her at home. And we can imprint lots of different things. The thing that we imprint with most is water, which sounds weird. But water can retain frequencies, kind of like charging up a battery, and it'll hold those frequencies. And so that's what we use. We take all of these frequencies, these balancing items, charge the water drops that we're going to give you to give her, and then you'll do it twice a day, and that will remind her system twice a day to correct these energy disturbances with those frequencies. And over time, she'll clear. So next time we test her in a month or so, almost all of those will be completely gone. They may pop up now and then, but most of them either improve significantly or are gone. And so there will always be energy deficits or disturbances because we live in a world that we're exposed to a lot of those things. But trying to help correct those, that the vital force can focus more on the physical things, or the immune system can focus more on the physical things, is very helpful because then it's not stretched out so thin. And so that's how that works. So you'll get some bioenergetic imprint drops to give her today too. So what questions you have about this?
Nothing. That's a lot though. Nothing specific.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and we're going to send you a whole bunch of information. You guys have any questions at all? All right.